Hey you guys, I'm Jack Ruston. Welcome to Ruston's Boneyard. If you've been here before, welcome back. Now, today we're going to continue with the double-hander theme. If you missed the beef, mushroom and egg, the Middle Eastern lamb or the pork chili double-handers, you may be wondering, what is a double-hander? Well, it is a delicious kind of wrap of protein-sparing bread baked in and around an unctuous, meaty filling and then folded up into a sort of almost like a kind of calzone, soft taco, kind of giant, delicious, nutritious thing of amazingness. And it's called a double-hander because you need to hold it with both hands or it's going everywhere, which is awesome. Now, clearly the weather's changed on us. We are well into autumn, certainly here in the UK, so we're in comfort food territory. What could be more comforting than roast chicken? So today we're going to do a roast chicken double-hander. I've got a pastured organic chicken. Let's roast it. First thing to do, prep the chicken. Now sometimes these will have the feet on. You can take them off as has been done here. This little bit at the end, the parson's nose as they call it, I like to just take that off. Wing tips, you can just fold them out, snap, crackle and pop. One and the other one. Now, usually I would leave these bits in the roasting tray and just let them roast away in there and then it can all go into stock. But actually I'm not going to do that this time because we're going to eat a lot of what's in the tray. So I'm going to put these to one side and keep them for later. Now, always check with the chicken, open the cavity. See this piece of fat that sometimes sits on the edge? Take that off, we don't need that. And also make sure that there's not a plastic bag inside containing the giblets, the heart, the liver and the neck, which sometimes they do leave in there. You don't want to be roasting it with a plastic bag inside. And equally, sometimes on the back of these chickens, if it's supermarket chicken particularly, there may be a kind of pad, like a foam pad to absorb moisture that comes out of the chicken. Make sure you get rid of that, obviously. Now, if I was roasting this for carving, I would possibly take out the wishbone, but there's no need to do that here because we're going to actually break the chicken down. I've got some ghee here. I'm going to melt it on my hob. You can use butter, you can use olive oil, you can use tallow, whatever you've got. I'm going to use ghee. Okay, so I just melted my ghee down and I'm just going to spoon it over here. Now, you could just put solid bits of ghee or butter into the roasting tray with the chicken, put it in the oven, and a few minutes later, take it out and baste it over. But I prefer to do it like this. Now I'm not going to put all my ghee on here, I'm going to keep a bit back. Now what I'm going to do is just take some sea salt. This is Maldon. You could use Redmond, you could use whatever you've got. Be generous, we want to get plenty onto this skin here. Now, I'm also going to add a little bit of dried oregano on top of here. It just does a really cool thing on the skin. We don't need a lot. Now here I've got some beautiful fresh thyme. Now we could spend the rest of our lives trying to pick leaves off this thyme, but instead what I'm going to do is just give it a very gentle sort of scattering. I'm just going to run my fingers up it just to knock a few little leaves off onto the top there, and the rest of it I'm just going to shove up its backside like that, and that's going to kind of infuse and cook away and give us all that thyme flavour. Here we've got classic French mirepoix vegetables, onion, celery and carrot. Now all we need to do is just chop these. I like these carrots in little kind of diagonals, and what they're going to provide is some sort of sweetness into the gravy that we're going to create here. Now if you're zero carb, if you're carnivore, obviously you don't have to add any of this stuff. You can leave the herbs out, you can leave the carrots out, but this is okay for most people. Now celery, leave it in bigger chunks because we're not going to leave that in at the end. It's a bit sort of fibrous, but we want it in there for flavour now. So onions, basically what we want to do with these is quarter them. As the chicken roasts, they're going to really kind of break down into nice kind of little caramelised onion quarters. And again, what they're adding is that kind of sweetness. What I'm going to do is just got this whole head of garlic here. I'm just going to cut it in half through here, and I'm just going to pop that whole piece into here. And what's going to happen is that's going to kind of caramelize and break down, and those little bits are going to kind of fall out of there and work their way through everything without me having to kind of do too much. So basically we're just keeping this simple. We don't want to spend hours overcomplicating matters. I've got a bit more of my ghee here. I'm going to spread it around, make sure I kind of coat these vegetables, and what we're going to do then is just get amongst it a little bit with our hands and make sure that they've all got a nice coating. So this is just going to go into a 160 degrees centigrade oven for about 90 minutes or so. Okie dokie, look at this. Here we go. We've got this lovely golden chicken. What's happening is that all the water in the chicken is actually bubbling away inside, and it's moving outwards. If we were to just cut this right now, all that moisture would just run out straight away in a kind of rush. So what we want to do is to just let this settle down. We want to let that cool down so that the water is no longer migrating outwards. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let any juices inside run out, and I'm going to pop this on the roasting rack here. This stuff in the tray, as we can see, it's starting to caramelize up, but it's not by any means completely caramelized. So let's pop that back in while the chicken rests. Right, so look, this has gone all kind of golden and caramelized now, and that's exactly what we want. We've got this kind of sticky coating in the tray. We'll put this to one side, let it just cool down, and when the chicken's finished resting, which I can see incidentally that it hasn't because there's still steam coming out inside here, we'll make a double hander. Okay, so our chicken's had a good half an hour resting, and I'm happy that it's calmed down a bit. First thing to do, we're just going to remove from that tray the celery, and I'm going to squeeze the remainder of the garlic out of this head. Oh, smells incredible. It's all sticky and amazing. Look at that. Now we can pretty much just pull it apart, and we're just gonna break it down into this dish. You know, the nice thing about this kind of this kind of approach is that, say you've got a family where, you know, one person is low carb, maybe, you know, you've got type 2 diabetes you're tackling or something like that, and you're needing to eat these kind of double handers and things which have no carbs in, but the rest of the family are eating a standard diet. You know, what you could do is just you know, treat this as normal roast chicken for half the family, do some baked potatoes or some veg or whatever you want, and then, you know, you can make the double hander alongside. It's a very flexible way to feed people with different dietary requirements at the same time. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel this skin off the surface here, and I'm going to lay it back on the roasting rack, and we're just going to crisp it up, and we're going to chop it in there at the end, which is just an awesome little ninja move. If you're finding that your chicken is too hot to handle, as the song goes, it might be that it's not rested enough. So again, head of these leg bones, just find that big chunk of gristle with the sharp pin bone that goes down that leg, and get rid of that. That can go into stock. I want to make sure that we get all this stuff off the back here. This is some of the best bits. The little oysters that come off, you know, these are some of the choice, the really choice bits. And what it does as well is it enables us to really get in behind this breast here and take it all the way off the carcass there. And on top of this, we're going to put all this stuff in the tray. Scrape it all out of there. Delicious, delicious, delicious. Onto that tray, we'll just pop these bits of skin, which are going to go back into the oven just to crisp up. Again, with your hands, get amongst it, just mix them through into a lovely kind of unctuous mixture. You know, break up those caramelized bits of garlic and just mix them through the chicken like that. And that's going to make the most delicious combination. It's all I can do not to just start tucking into it right now. It's a good opportunity to make sure as well that you haven't got any bits of gristle or bone left in there, which obviously, yeah, you don't really want getting into your double hander. So let's make our protein sparing bread. What I've got here are 4 eggs, and we're just going to separate the whites from the yolks. We'll keep the yolks for something else. We don't need them for this recipe. Simple way to do it: crack the egg, open it out, look for a smooth piece of shell and tip the egg out across that smooth piece. If you tip it across a spiky piece, then sometimes the yolk is gonna break and run into the white. Now we're gonna beat these whites to stiff peaks. It takes a couple of minutes with a hand whisk. Okay, stiff peaks, one way to test: hold it above your head. Don't get it wrong. To that, we're gonna add some salt. We're going to add some egg white protein powder, and I've got a little 1/4 cup measure here, and I'm going to take about 2/3 of that. It's probably 15-20 grams, something like that. And what that egg white powder does is it dries out the mixture a little bit, stops it being too wet. So we can just blend that through. I managed to get it all over myself. So I've got this 12-inch Lodge skillet, and it's just been on a low heat. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a little bit of ghee around the surface of that, spread it around a little bit, and then into here we're going to put some of our chicken mixture, and we're looking to basically cover most of the base of this skillet. Now on top of that, we're going to spread our protein sparing mixture. And what we want to do is we want to kind of work this down into the chicken, because ideally we want the kind of base of our protein sparing bread to sort of incorporate this meat. And it doesn't always work out exactly the way we want. Sometimes we end up with a few bits kind of left stuck in the skillet instead of sort of baked into the mixture. But if we just do this layer where we kind of smush it all in at the base, it usually does a pretty good job. Now, on top of that, we want to put the rest of it and just spread it around like you're baking a cake. And that is going to go into a 180 degrees centigrade oven for 10 minutes. And with it, I'm going to put the chicken skin. Okie dokie, here we go. So, let's just pop this stuff down and sort it all out. Here's our beautiful double hander. Now what I want to do is to just lift these pieces of chicken skin out of here. Look, they're all crisp and delicious. Now we need to turn the double hander out. What I'm going to do is just use a spatula to just make sure that this protein sparing bread is separated around the edge of the skillet, which it is. And then I'm just going to go underneath and just make sure it's not stuck down anywhere. Seems okay. So I'm going to turn it out onto the rack because this is hot. I'm going to let it cool down for a few minutes. If I turn it out onto a plate, it's going to steam the underside, which I don't want to happen. So I'm going to put my hand on the back and I'm just going to do the protein sparing move. And there's just a couple of bits left in, which I'm going to pop on top. And we will let that just cool down for a minute. Oh, what a satisfying noise. It's the most satisfying noise in the world, with the possible exception of pork crackling. Let's pop into here some of these delicious, crisp pieces of chicken skin. So we want to fold it up, just get underneath it, lift it off here, fold it up, and the way the double hander works is that you put one hand in the middle and the other hand you close off the base of it, and there you've got it, a glorious roast chicken double hander. This has to be the ultimate low carb comfort food. I challenge you to make it. Challenge you to take a picture. I challenge you to stick it on Instagram and tag me, because I'd love to see what you're doing. I'd love to get to know you. So give it a go. Have a good day, you guys. Keep cooking. This one's gonna be fucking great, I can just tell.